just wanna be like you. I wanna be you. I wanna be perfect, rich and famous, just like you. I wanna be you. I wanna be perfect, rich and faceless, just like.
Few people would associate a new town midway between London and Southend with nurturing creative musical talent. However, during the 1980s, Basildon would launch the careers of Alison Moyet and Depeche Mode. With 40 million album sales over 25 years, how did Depeche Mode become Basildon's biggest export, yet bypass the UK's mainstream music industry and remain largely a cult band?
They all came from very humble backgrounds in Basildon. You know, they effectively all just came from working class families in Basildon, New Town. A lot of them came from split family backgrounds. Vince in particular, his family weren't well off at all. And Vince, I think when you talk to a lot of people, you know, the group themselves as well, Vince was the driving force in the early days.
There was mods and soul boys and everyone had to get on with it. And so anyone had any interest in culture gravitated towards each other, and so there was this general interest, no matter what sort of music you was interested in. If you was interested in anything, you'd end up gravitating towards each other. And I think that's what the Depeche Mode are, really. When you look at the makeup of Depeche Mode, you've got Dave Garn, who's the trendy soul boy kind of thing. Martin Gore was like a folky type, and then there's Vince Clarke, this Kraftwerk futurist. So it was all in the mix, and that was I think that was a very Basildon phenomena. It wasn't unusual. That I don't think you'd get in sort of urban areas.
Phil Burdett went to St Nicholas's Comprehensive with Martin Gore, and there they formed an unlikely musical duo called Norman and the Worms.
He was always very quiet, but there was something slightly different about him, and there was something slightly different about me too, so I thought we sort of paired off. And he wanted to learn guitar, so I decided to show him what I knew, which wasn't a lot at the time, but he picked it up very quickly anyway. But I went on to St Nicholas School, which is a comprehensive in Basildon, which is where a lot of people went. Andy Fletcher went there, and Alison Moyet went there, and lots of other people. Yeah. Everyone who is anyone in Basildon went to that school.
Well, I was at school with Dave, so I met Dave at school, and then we were in a crowd that used to go out around Basildon and follow bands and parties and go up the pub, etc. And then I met Vince because he just asked me out one night. So that's how I got to know Vince, and then consequently Andy and Martin. He was he was very trendy. He stood out because of that, because he was always trendy and good looking. And he was a bit of a lad at school.
But he was very methodical in the way he put things together. I always thought, when he showed me stuff he'd written, I thought, yeah, I can see how he put it together. But there was, for me, it didn't seem like it was almost like an exercise in songwriting. The first time we played, I think, was actually in the sixth form common room at Nicholas School, and we invited our year basically to come and see it. And I think they were expecting us to do lots of covers, and they were quite surprised that we had songs that we'd written. He was a very nervous person, but he was quite confident when we were both confident in putting it across.
We had a church upbringing, and so everyone knew how to play guitar and things. And we went on, we started listening to a lot of electronic music, and we thought, we might as well try this, because there's too many guitar bands around.
Martin had always shown an interest in electronic music, but 1979 was the year that synthesizers stormed the charts and inspired a whole generation of teenagers like Martin to swap guitars for keyboards.
The whole sort of synth pop thing started up, and they were, you could tell he was leaning towards that, and I wasn't, basically, leaning quite dramatically away from it. And he got into it more and more, and I didn't realise how much he was into it until he sort of formed another band around, you know, some other people.
Martin defected to the catchy named Composition of Sound with Vince Clarke and Andy Fletcher.
Well, Martin bought a synth first. Vince quite liked that, you know. I think he was a bit jealous. So he'd spent about 6 months trying to save up to get a guitar. And he was a bit annoyed when Martin bought his synth, and it seemed pretty good. So he saved up another 6 months and got a synth. So we had two, and then I was playing bass. And then Vince turned around one day and said, I think it might be good if you get a synth as well, make it all electronic.
Vince and Andy had been friends through junior school and the boys' brigade at St Paul's Church.
Yeah, he used to be someone who hung around. There's a photograph of me and Martin playing in the sixth form common room, and purely by coincidence, Andy's sitting in between us, like in the background. You can see him in between the two of us, and I only noticed it when someone showed me it the other day. So, but he was always around.
Martin was also playing with another electronic band, French Look, and it was at one of their rehearsals that he first met potential singer Dave Garn.
And then Vince asked Dave to be the singer, because he'd seen him around town, see that he was a cool dude, and he had loads of trendy mates that he could bring to all the gigs. They originally were called Composition of Sound. That was the first name they had, and they did a gig at a party. I was going away to work at Butlins, and I had a going away party, and they come and played at that. So that was their first gig.
Composition of Sound supported French Look at St Nicholas's in 1980. This was their first gig with Dave on vocals. For French Look, the gig was a disaster, and they publicly disbanded on stage. For Composition of Sound, it was a turning point. Dave suggested the new name Depeche Mode, after a French fashion magazine.
I knew him outside of school, and so I knew him in a sense more when Dave Garn had joined and things had moved on, and they started playing London. But they played Southend. That's the first time I saw them. It was Composition of Sound, and they supported the School Bullies. Yeah, you know, very Roxy music, very, I think it was Price of Love. But very simple, but very engaging, you know what I mean? Very disarming, because it's quite an honest, charming persona they had.
It's quite hard though, isn't it? Because there's really few places to practice. When we first started, you know, we found it very difficult to practice and to play.
Yeah.
We took tapes around to every club and every pub, and we got about one support day.
The only gig we
like
got
that.
was at the Bridge House.
And then when Dave joined them, he brought all that glamour to it, obviously. He started doing the gigs at the Bridge House, and they were a different band altogether, and they were very good. I mean, they knew what they were doing.